Hello from me, Lazarus. We continue with the next lesson of the course by Lazarus IDE. We are currently on Chapter 9. Additional ribbon components, and we are now on the 5th point of this chapter. TSpliter, T-flow panel, TNotebook, and TSpliter components. We start with the TSpliter component. With its help the form can be divided in several parts, as to each of them they can to place various elements. This is achieved through the method of alignment and using the separator, as usually used. TSpliter together with panel, on which elements are placed. Alignment is defined of two properties. Anchor, this is a property, which allows attachment to the side or sides of the container, in which our element resides. By default it is checked up and left. We can see it here. It is by default. There are check marks on the top and left, and by clicking here on the three dots, this one appears to us window, where we can configure further. So, they can be set from it different settings, e.g. to be attached at the four ends, here by enabling the bookmarks. The second property, which defines the alignment, is the align property. Which also allows for attachment to the country or to the sides of the container in which our element is located, or to the entire container. Default is none, which means no alignment, and the other possibilities are as follows: to take the whole container, or to take top or bottom, left or right, or optionally some alignment. You can experiment with these properties by making a new project and place on the form, for example, one panel, and try different variations on it. Now we will consider the following example. We add a panel at the top of the shape and the align property we set al top, that is to attach to the top, remove its title, from the caption property, and it we color in a different color, from the color property, as we saw in previous lessons. After that, put on the form one TSpliter component, and on its align property we also set al top. The result is the following. We see that when we place the cursor mouse over the divider, it becomes a two-way arrow and we can extend the element. Then left we will add a TNotebook component and of its property. Align we set al left. And next to it we will put another separator. Splitter 2, its align property, default, should be al left, and we leave it at that. We will see this in a moment on the general scheme, and now we continue with the TNotebook component. The name of this component itself talk about his reassignment. He is a container element containing various pages. Its distinguishing property is page. by which they are created, and its individual pages are available. We will create 2 pages, which we will name page 1 and page 2. The page index property specifies which page should be on top. We won't change it, just now we will give it a bright green world, via the color property. That's it for now on this component. Next to it we will place a panel, but a small one, a different one, which is also located at this bar, T-flow panel. We will also place other components on it, but let's look at it briefly first. The T-flow panel component is a panel on which they can have other floating components, also other panels. It works as a visual container for the elements that are placed in it, but these elements have no fixed situation and can change its location when changing to the program window. The property that governs them, and in which they are placed, is control list. Let's deploy a component. T-flow panel of the form and set it to al client on the align property, to occupy all the rest free space to the right. This is this flow panel 1 component, and on it we will place 3 elements, panel 2, check group 1, panel 3. So, let's take a look at its control list property, and we see that here the 3 elements are reflected as items. Moreover, they are seen as separate sub-elements in the object inspector. And here the flow layout property is used to set the layout, alignment, when no floating coordinate, to wherever it may be. Another important property is flow style, which is used to define the order in which to have the elements in flow panel 1. Here, you can see different options, it's on this component. Now we will shape the elements a little more. We will add more 3 radio buttons, 3 checkboxes. Two buttons and 1 field of type memo. Here's how everything will look. The one on the right is compiled. And now let's write some code, with which when pressing the add button are selected items to be added in memo 1, we click twice on it and write in procedure the following code. I won't look into it now, you will see it in the PDF file. We'll comment on that in a moment. We compile and test the program and we see that everything it works correctly. Finally, we'll look at the TSpliter component. This component is a combination of splitter, TSpliter, and panel, TPanel. Let's add one such component on our form in flow panel 1. We will also move the rest of the components, and here's what happened. By looking at the properties of this component, we will see that we cannot to color in a different color its 2 parts. When we compile and run, the program looks like this. It struck me that any part of this component individually, it has very few properties. Here's how they stack up the components in flow panel 1, when we change form dimensions. So here we have a kind of adaptive design, let's say it, like for a mobile phone. Elements are stacked one below the other. Here we can open the program now. Let's compile and run it. Now I select a city, press the add button and it is printed. If I choose two others here and they are printed. And with the clean button it is cleared. And here, if I zoom in, you see how it goes, and this is the effect here. So, I'm closing this program, we come back here. And lastly we will look at this option using tier radio group, that is, instead of deploying a radio we will put the buttons in a panel as they were one tier radio group component. What we need to change here is the procedure code when pressing the add button. Because tier radio group does not have a checked property, and here this check, which button is pressed, is done via the item index property. By default the value in it is -1, that is, no button is included. When the first one is on, the value is 0, and so on. And to check all buttons, we need to write a for loop. Here we can see what kind should be the code in the procedures, and by compiling and running the program, we will see it the same way. I won't run this example right now, because it is almost the same as the previous one. That's all for this tutorial. Best regards.